Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your subject on CPT3 Fundamentals of Crop Science. I'm so sorry to tell you that I was not able to meet you yesterday for the time schedule due to my internet connectivity. And so I shall have a discussion with you on the topics for the next lesson. So I would like to congratulate all because for the first month, we are done with the unit one, which is the introduction. So please take note of your first quiz assignment because our preliminary exam is heading soon. So we're done. So you can look back to the videos here for you to check on the lessons that we have discussed and for you to review. So we are now on unit 2, which is crop production, agriculture, and trade. So we're going to start with energy flow. So when we say energy flow, through an ecosystem, of course, it both refers to all the living organisms, no, all living things, humans, animals, and plants. So there are terminologies like food chains, food web, and energy pyramids that we're going to talk about on this presentation. So what is this energy flow through an ecosystem? So as I have said, this is just the transfer of energy from plants to animals and animals to humans, or vice versa, or could be in the series of food chains or food web, no, mix. So the energy flow is when you transfer the energy that we're going to use from one organism to another. So to further understand that, we have laws of thermodynamics, for instance, wherein the first law is, if I know you have taken this up on your physics and chemistry subjects, so energy can neither be created nor destroyed. If you remember that, can only be changed from one form to another. That is the first law of thermodynamics. So energy is not really lost. It's just transfer from one place to another or one organism to another. And the second law refers to the entropy. As energy is transferred from one form to another, some is lost as heat and usable energy decreases. So as energy we cannot create or destroy, we just get them from a source, and then we take it and it is transferred or we use it, and so it is lost as heat as we use our energy in our body for metabolism, for growth, and even for our activities, no, for physical activities, brain activities. So these are lost, and the energy that we possess also decreases as we transfer it, no, or as we use it. So energy in an ecosystem originally comes from the sun, no? So energy flows through ecosystem from producers to consumers because like human beings and animals cannot get energy directly from the sun, so it must be taken from the sun through the plants, no? We call them producers. And then we, the consumers, we animals and humans are the consumers. So the producers are the one making food, and the consumers are the one uses food by eating producers or other consumers. Like the producers are plants, we eat them, so we are the consumer. So producers, where sunlight is the main source of energy for most life on earth. So producer contain chlorophyll and can use energy directly from the sun. So this is how, because we don't have chlorophyll, animals cannot do that. So plants do that for us because they contain chlorophyll, which can collect energy directly from the sun. And it begins with sun photosynthesis. So it is called photosynthesis. So what is again the formula in photosynthesis? As you have learned it in your biology class, it's 6 carbon dioxide with water and sunlight with chlorophyll. We produces or plants produces carbon dioxide, CH6H12O6, and water. So they make use of carbon dioxide and water with the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, which picks up the energy from the sun. So they are able to produce carbohydrates with the release of oxygen. And take note, we use oxygen for breathing. Not only humans, but also animals. So to continue with photosynthesis, what is photosynthesis? So photosynthesis is actually a chemical reaction where green plants use water and carbon dioxide to store the sun's energy in glucose. So we can define them. It's definitely a chemical reaction because it's a reaction which composes different interaction of chemicals. So we say green plants because they have chlorophyll. And we say they use water and carbon dioxide to store the sun's energy and to produce glucose. And we animals and humans all eat glucose. No, we found glucose in almost food that we eat. Energy is stored in glucose, and glucose is stored as starch in plants. So glucose is just um a simple carbohydrate that is stored in starch, which is a complex carbohydrates. So this is what actually goes in photosynthesis, where water is absorbed from the roots, and then light comes from the sun, picked up by chlorophyll, which traps the light energy to make load, and carbon dioxide enters through the stomata of the leaves. And that in that way, they release oxygen, where we given off into the air and where we breathe, and sugar in the form of starch, converted to starch stored food in other parts of the plant, and turns iodine dark blue if you're going to analyze it into through analysis. So another after photosynthesis, another is cellular respiration. But let me check here. Oh, it's not opening. I just want to, yeah, Google Slide. To open it in Google Slide, because there are animations here that you might be as well feel animated, no, as we continue. So while waiting, let's go back here to cellular respiration. So this is a very familiar formula. So this is actually the opposite of photosynthesis formula, which we call cellular respiration. So cellular respiration happens in both plants and animals. So the oxygen that was taken off by plants is being taken in by animals and eat this glucose or carbohydrates in the form of starch to release and to make use them and they into energy with the release of water and carbon dioxide. So it's just the opposite, no, of photosynthesis. So remember, photosynthesis is the making use of carbon dioxide and water with the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll into starch with the release of, or glucose with the release of oxygen. So cellular respiration is the chemical reaction that releases the energy in glucose. No, it is just defined like that. So going further to the autotrophs, Okay, we'll just have the slide. The slideshow. So what are autotrophs? No? Autotrophs, an autotroph isn't any organism that can produce its own food supply. So autotrophs are also called producers. So plants, this includes plants, algae, some protists, and some bacteria are examples of producer, or also known as autotrophs if they produce its own food supply. So where we can find the producer, they capture energy and transform it into organic stored energy for the use of living organism. So once they capture the energy and transform it into a stored energy for the living organisms, those are producer. But they could also be photoautotrophs using light energy, like for plants, no? Because autotrophs can be photoautotrophs or chemiautotrophs if they use chemical energy, like the cyanobacteria. So again, the autotrophs can be photoautotrophs and chemiautotrophs if they use energy to produce food, photoautotrophs like plants, and chemiautotrophs like cyanobacteria if they use chemical energy to produce um, glucose or energy from plants. So photoautotroph are producer that captures energy from the sun by photosynthesis, wherein they add oxygen to the atmosphere, removes carbon dioxide also from the atmosphere, and example of this are algae, no? The algae. So the habitat of these photoautotrophs can be found on land like the plants, and in the sea like the algae, and tidal floods and salt marshes like the cyanobacteria. So all plants, algae, and cyanobacteria can be are examples of phototrophs. So next is chemiautotrophs. They capture energy from the bonds of inorganic molecules such as hydrogen sulfide, where it is called the process of chemosynthesis, and it often occurs in the deep sea vents or gut of animals, like this is shown in the photo. So example of the chemiautotrophs are the cyanobacteria, wherein they capture energy from inorganic molecules like hydrogen sulfide through chemosynthesis, like this. So if you have seen this in different videos or in real, so this is an example of chemosynthesis. These are called black smoker or thermal vent. So let's talk about the consumer. These are heterotrophs. There are heterotrophs, are also called consumer. They eat other organisms to obtain energy. So example are the animals, and humans belong to the animal kingdom. So herbivores eat only plants, while carnivores eat only other animals, and these are example of the um, herbivores, no? The giraffe that eats grasses, while example are the lion which eats the giraffe, no? So these herbivores and carnivores belong to heterotrophs because they eat other organisms to obtain energy. So aside from the herbivore and the carnivore, we also have the omnivores, and this under this are humans because we both eat plants and animals. If you're not a vegetarian or whatever, no, so most of the humans are omnivores, and we also have scavengers called detritivores. Detritivores, no, they feed on dead plant and animal remains. like the vultures, worm and crabs and buzzards, no? And also decomposer, like the fungi and bacteria, because they decompose almost all um, living things and that are already they're able to decompose them. So the energy that is not used by producers can be passed on to the organism that cannot make their own energy like the animals. So based on feeding relationship, we call them food chain. The energy where energy flows through an ecosystem in one direction only, from producers to various level of consumers, as shown in the photo. So the flower, the plant is the producer, and where caterpillar consumes and eats the leaves, and where frog consumes and eats the caterpillar, and where the snake consumes the frog, and the owl perhaps can eat the snake. No, so those are it's just in one direction. Those are example of food chain. Another feeding relationship is called, another one is food web. So to differentiate food chain from food web, food chain is the simple energy path through an ecosystem, while food web is more realistic path through an ecosystem, which are made up of many food chains, no? The interaction, the web. So to differentiate them, this food chain sequence of who is just a sequence of who eats whom in a biological community called ecosystem to obtain nutrition, and they can have no more than 4 or 5 links. While the food well, the food web, all possible energy paths can be obtained. While food chain only in food chain where you can see in the photo here on that's only one path energy, while the food web could be in any form direction. So the transfer of energy from the sun to producer to primary consumer, then to higher order consumer can be shown in the food chain below. No? From the sun, the plant takes the energy from the sun and then transfer to the caterpillar, into the frog, and into the bird or the hawk. So these are some more sample of food chains. The where you call them the different trophic levels, whether primary producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary, and quaternary consumer. So these are the different biomes. In the grassland biome, the grass is the primary producer and the grasshopper is the primary consumer. Rat is the secondary consumer. Tertiary is snake, and the hawk is the quaternary. In the pond naman biomes, the algae are the primary producer. Then the primary consumer is the mosquitoes or larvae eaten by the dragonfly, a secondary, tertiary fish, and the raccoons are the quaternary. So there could be possibly a lot of quaternary or primary and so on, no, that can consume raccoon and other. And in the ocean, take note, the phytoplankton are the primary producer which produce energy, and the zooplankton are the primary consumer. Fish is eats the zooplankton, and seal eats a fish, and the shark eats the seal as the secondary, tertiary, and quaternary consumers. So those are just a lot of example. So showing you the food chain available energy. So according to the second law of thermodynamics, that once the energy is transferred, it's getting lower and is lost through heat. No, so the top level contain 1 unit of energy, while the second level consumer 10 units of energy, and the first level consumer is 100 units of energy, while the producer contained 1,000 units of energy. So you can see here actually the from 1,000 units here in the producer's level, it goes down to 100 units, 10 units, and at the top is the only 1 unit. So that's how energy is transferred. So the food webs these are example where you can see interconnected food chain. They show the feeding relationship in an ecosystem. So for instance, from the plants is eaten by this deer, and then the deer is eaten by this what you call this um the wild dogs. Let's just say wild dogs, no? And the wild dogs could be the last consumer, but you can see here if the rabbit eats the plants and the rabbit is being eaten by it's either by the wild dog or the wolves and the owl and so on. So they show the feeding relationship in an ecosystem wherein there is interaction. So how many chains are in this web? There's a lot, no? From the rabbit and the fox and the fox and owl, no? There's a lot. Squirrel, mice, birds. So within this one, for instance, the herbivore insects eats the plants where they can be eaten by spiders or predaceous insect, toads, and eaten all by snakes. No. So this is also what happened in the soil. So you have shown in the previous slides how is in the grassland biome, in the pan biome, and the ocean. Now in the soil, what happens is this one. So this can be categorized as the first trophic level, wherein plants are the main producer of, where also you can see here nematodes, which eats the roots, for example, root feeders, and the nematodes are eaten by the arthropod shredder, and these are eaten by the arthropod's predator and are eaten by birds. And organic matter from the plants are likewise eaten by bacteria and fungi, and then bacteria to protozoa and nematodes, arthropods, and animals. No, same way that can also be fungi can also be eaten directly by the nematodes or the arthropods. It then goes to the animals. So there could be the first trophic, second trophic level, third trophic level, and the fourth and fifth and higher trophic levels, and so on. So we also have the so-called energy pyramid show, wherein the amount of available energy, this is the second law of thermodynamics, wherein the amount of available energy decreases for higher consumers, and the amount of available energy decreases down to the food chain. And it takes a large number of producers to support a small number of primary consumers, and it takes a large number of primary consumers to support a small number of secondary consumers. So the energy here is bigger, and because that's why it's a pyramid, because population here is higher to produce the energy for the next level, wherein the energy is getting low and low, but it also takes a lot or a large number of producers. So in the food chain, the energy is passed from one link to another, and the amount of energy that is transferred gets lesser and lesser, as shown in the pyramid, no? Here. So the plants are the primary producers, so it takes a lot of plants to produce energy for the animals, and it takes a lot of animals to produce energy for one lion, and where the energy gets lower and lower at the top. So a network of many food chains, the food web. So as you can see, another representation, you can see the autotrophs belongs here at the base, and the heterotrophs, or the one that consumes the autotrophs, can be primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. So the energy, that's why it's a food web, because the energy at the top gets lower and lower. So another, and the energy is lost and is also going up, no, from producers to first order, second order, and third order consumer. So in ecological pyramids, graphic representation of the relative amounts of energy or matter at each trophic level may be energy pyramid or biomass pyramid or pyramid of numbers. So this is the energy pyramid, wherein it shows that 100% producers where light or chemical energy comes from here. So 10% first level consumers, heat is lost, no, and becomes 1% and 0.1% as it goes up to the third level consumers. And in the biomass pyramid, it takes a lot of like 1,500 grams of grain, then becomes 500 grams of chicken, and 50 grams of human tissue. No? So from the 1,500, the amount of energy is being transferred gets low and low. No? Imagine from 1,5 to 50 grams. And another representation of the pyramid of numbers. So the number is not only the biomass and the energy unit that is being consumed and gets lower, but also the numbers, no? So it takes a lot or large number of producers like plants, and also the second consumers and its number, and the third and the top. So there are more autotrophs than heterotrophs, of course, with intense competition and interdependence. So we will never survive without the autotrophs or the plants, because we depend on each other in an ecological system. So that's all for our discussion for now. So if you have questions, please comment on the presentation here, no, under this classwork. You make comment your questions, no, and also I'm going to post here this video that I am presenting to you. So for now, please also take note of that I just have transferred all your quizzes under prelim mid. They are already categorized now. So under the unit 1, so due was over, and I hope you have submitted. So let me check on that if you have all submitted. Let's see, Oliver. So it's still missing, no? So please take note of your assign. You haven't done the introduction yet, so we are now here on unit 2. So hopefully that would be due on October 23, or I'll be change the schedule. So yes, very good for Beam. You have already submitted 2. And for John Ray, it's oh yes, medyo advanced si John Ray, no? Na may answer na siya. But our discussion is still under this unit 2. So most of you are advanced already. So I hope to see you next meeting with our class. So thank you for listening in this video. See you later.